So here's the idea, okay? So we have this big building, 30 by 60 steel building, and I had a reptile company running in here. So we basically have this giant area that's about 32 by 10 feet wide that doesn't have anything in it, so you can dig down as far as you want. So the idea here is that we would like to build a bunker underneath this before we slab in this area to make this whole building concrete. So the plan is to basically, I got the excavator here. We're gonna excavate out essentially a 10 foot by 10 foot square, and that is going to be the concrete form for the slab over there, which is about 9'6" square. And if we use cinder blocks, which we'll be using for the walls, if we make the inside of the room 8 foot by 8 foot, it puts us at about 9 foot and 4 inches on the outside of all the walls. So the OD, essentially the outside dimensions of the square room would be 9'6" square, or excuse me, 9'4" square. We'll make the pad 9'6" square, so we have about 1 inch of tolerance around where we're going to be laying the first row of cinder blocks. And then we're going to do the rows, I think we're doing 10 rows tall, which will give us 7 feet. So we'll have 7 foot ceilings. So we need to dig this down about 8 feet deep, 10 feet square, and that'll give us room to put a slab 7 foot of wall, and then still have room to put the slab on top. And that'll all be rebarred in. And so essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna dig a big hole. Hopefully we can get down as far as we need to with this excavator. We do have access to at least, 2 good sides in here. And we have the framework already for the base, so I wanna make sure that fits in the hole, obviously, because that is what needs to go down there. And as long as that framework fits in the hole, then we know all the walls and everything else will fit. And then we're going to make a big order from Lowe's, which is about 270 cinder blocks, about 65 bags, 90-pound bags of concrete, and about 30 10-foot sticks of 1/2 inch rebar. And that should at least get us the structure to be able to do the floor, do the walls, and then we'll also be able to fill some of the columns in the walls, so that way it'll have some rigidity so we can backfill it before they do the slab on top. And we're also going to be using Loctite landscape adhesive to actually glue the blocks together, with the exception of the first row that'll go on mortar, so we can make sure that that's really nice and flat and level and square. And then after that, we'll just stack everything up with the adhesive, because the adhesive is essentially just going to be holding the blocks in place until we can get concrete into the columns inside of them. And then hopefully in a later video, I'll be showing you guys how I'm going to build the hatch. So the idea is I already have some stairs, just like the ones behind me, that are essentially reverse angled, so the stairs are a lot steeper. So if we make the doorway about 42 inches long on the inside diameter and 36 inches wide, we should be able to get down 7 feet, and then just a slight duct to get into the room. So we're gonna build all that, but I'm gonna switch you guys over to a time lapse, and we're just gonna kind of time lapse the dig and see how far we can get down before that wall either starts collapsing or we don't have enough reach in the excavator anymore. So we're just gonna have to kind of figure it out as we go. And we're kind of limited with the size of excavator based on our 10 foot by 10 foot roll-up door that we have in the building. And we had actually looked into burying some other stuff in here, but to be honest, the other stuff is so expensive I mean, even a water tank that's 102 by about 90 inches is still $2,000. So you figure by the time you rent an excavator, dig it out, build an entire bunker with concrete and everything, you're going to be looking at, you know, $1,500. And you know, it's literally made out of concrete, so you can do anything you want in there. When you bury like a water tub or a septic tank, you're just going to be backfilling it with dirt, and you're going to be surrounded by dirt. So, you know, I mean, you can call it an underground bunker, underground shelter, but honestly, you're surrounded by dirt. So, and what's cool about this area is, you know, we have a 30 by 60 steel building on top with a 6-inch slab. So this slab isn't going anywhere. So whatever we put underneath there, it's never going to get torn out of the ground because there's a giant concrete slab on top. So, so yeah, we're just trying to get a nice concrete box in there essentially, and then we'll run ventilation and electrical. And I'll show you guys all how I end up doing all that, but we'll switch over to the time lapse and we'll get this thing dug. Well, as you can see, we got ourselves about a 9-foot deep hole. So I dug this thing out with an excavator. The deepest parts that we could get to, because obviously the excavator digs deeper the closer you are to the excavator. So I got the deepest parts as deep as I could, which is about 9 feet. The other parts are around 8. So I'm hoping that once we use the jackhammer, kind of square up the walls, and we knock, get everything kind of flattened there, we'll have our lower section where we need it, so that way we don't have to bucket out dirt. We can always add dirt, that's easy, but taking dirt out of a 9-foot hole is a pain in the ass. So now we are basically just jackhammering, and this area all has a footer around it, so we need to jackhammer like that off, and there's some parts sticking out, and I've already started to take care of this side, but we'll keep working at it, and I'll switch you guys over to the jackhammering and leveling time lapse. I had originally thought, at least a lot more manual labor than I had originally thought. With the excavator, I was hoping we could get, you know, pretty much all the dirt out, but it just wasn't the case. What ended up happening was basically these footings are sticking out, and then once we jackhammered those off, there was a good 16 inches of dirt that went down that we had to jackhammer off also, because the excavator couldn't get to it because it's underneath that concrete edge. And then there's a giant boulder in that corner, so we had to jackhammer that boulder out, kind of set our depth there, and then cut this off. And then I think what we're gonna do is just kind of square everything off this back corner, and we'll be coming out. So we're actually gonna not use a concrete form on the bottom, because technically, well, we just flat out don't need it, and obviously the wood is gonna take up another 3 inches of space that we just don't have all the way around. So we're just gonna concrete that in, rebar that in, and then we'll lay the blocks right on top of that. And then we're gonna switch to 6-inch wide blocks instead of 8-inch wide blocks, just because it gives us a little more wiggle room. And the plan is that this is where the door is gonna be, this corner anyway. So we're gonna cut a channel in the concrete here, which will allow us to run 3 4-inch PVC pipes and mount them to the wall. And then when we come up here, we'll have electrical for the blower fan, the 4-inch blower fan, which will pump dirty air out of the bunker, and it'll pull fresh air in of the other 4-inch pipe. And the other 4-inch pipe that's down there, because we're going to use 3, we'll use that to be our access for conduit and anything else we want to run down into the bunker. And then that'll just take the space of a single brick underneath this door, so it'll be under the stairs. So the stairs will be there anyway, so it won't really matter. So we're not taking up any space that's not already going to be taken up. But for the most part, this floor is about 7 foot 8 inches, 7 foot 9 inches deep. So that will allow us to essentially have a 4-inch slab on the bottom, and then we're gonna do a half brick, so a half cinder block, so it's 4 inches tall. We'll do a half cinder block for the very first row, and then you'll be able to do full cinder blocks, which are 8 inches tall, for the rest of the rows, which will essentially give you 7 foot tall walls inside, and 8 foot by 8 foot inside diameter, or inside area. And then that will leave us with room on top for the slab that's going to get poured in here anyway. So this whole area will be a slab, and they'll fill this in on top. So we'll build a wall on the inside, a ceiling on the inside of the bunker, and we'll shore it up with a bunch of wood, as long as it's small enough that we can get it out, which we should be able to. And we'll shore all that up, and then when they pour the slab on top, that will essentially become the roof of the bunker. And we'll have the framework for the door, which will be over there, which will get concreted in as well. And then we should be good to go. We should have a friggin' bunker in here, dude. So I'll bring you guys along for the ride for that. We're making an order from Lowe's for basically like $1,000 worth of materials. So it's like 290 cinder blocks or something now I think we need. Like 65 bags of concrete, a bunch of 20-foot sticks of rebar. We're switching to 20 foots instead of 10s. And this whole project is kind of evolving as we go, depending on how big we could get the hole and how deep we could get the hole and what area we had to work with. And obviously we don't want to make the bunker any smaller. It's easier to just kind of do all the work now, and then have a little bit larger of a space. And because I mean, even an 8x8 area, you know, as much as it's, you know, not that small, I'm sure once we get inside and we put a couple things in there, we're gonna wish we did, you know, this whole friggin' area, which is, you know, don't put it past me. So, but yeah, we'll just keep cranking away on this thing, and I'll keep making videos and time lapses, and we'll kind of show you what we're doing as we go.